Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the June 20th regular meeting of the Dare County Board of Elections. I want to call this meeting to order. And our first order of business is a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. It's nice to have everybody back again. We're in our, this is probably be considered the run-up to our municipal elections this fall. The first item on our agenda is old business, and it's not really old business. This is something that I wanted to thank Aida Havel to my right for covering the League of Women Voters cookout speaking engagement we were invited to. I was unable to attend, and Aida graciously picked that up, and she went out there. And Aida, would you give us a little idea about what you did?
Sure. It was last Saturday from 12 to 3 in, I think it's called Bidford Park in Manteo. And it was just a community cookout, and it was encouraging people to register to vote, to come out and vote, and to learn about the range of issues that the League of Women Voters speaks out on. So there was a member of the DARE Education partnership there. I'm trying to remember who the other people were, but I spoke on the Board of Elections. I talked about how we 99% of our votes are unanimous, and how we work in a very bipartisan manner, and that is something that the citizens can take confidence in. I also talked a little bit about the hand-eye audit that we do after every election, and how there are various fail-safes and safeguards in place to make sure that our elections are safe and fair. I talked a little bit about the new guidelines relating to people who are out of prison or incarceration, but who have not yet paid fines, and some of the restrictions around that. And I talked about, what was the other big one? Voter ID. I talked about voter ID, and I told people, because we have not received all the final rules from the State Board of Elections yet, that those would be coming out. But I just gave people sort of a very high level view of some of those issues, and then I took a few questions from the group. So I think it went well, and I'm always happy when we can bring information to the general public about how we administer elections. And I encouraged anyone who is interested in knowing more on a more granular level how elections are run to apply for precinct official positions. And I did make a specific pledge for more precinct officials in Mans Harbor and Frisco.
All right.
I think that's my complete report.
Yeah. Thank you, Aida. Yeah, the League of Women Voters is to be commended for their fine work in bringing information about our votes to our voters in our community. This is really important work that they do, and I think they've been doing it since the 70s. And it's just really something to see it continue the way it has. And Aida hit all the high notes and the things that we feel are real important for everybody to know. So, and one of the things we'll be talking about is the voter ID. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. Jackie, you might want to talk about that during the director's report in terms of the details and how that's going to roll out for us in terms of equipment and everything else. But we do have, this will be the first election in our state where voter IDs will be required. There are ways to vote regardless of whether you have a photo ID or not. And we will inform the public about that. And some of this, I think this information is all on our website now, is it not?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So anybody who's watching this, if you want to know the close details, go to the Dare County website and go to the Department of Elections, I think is how they post it there. And you'll see the voter ID requirements there just from a general commentary. The Your driver's license will be suitable, your US passport will be suitable, and then the elections office will also be issuing free IDs for anyone who wants to stop by and get one of those. So, and there are a number of other ways to do it. So it's not going to be anything, I think, that will be a limiter on you being able to vote. It's not making it too much more complicated. Most of us in Dare County probably need IDs to get to a place to vote anyway, based on the way our county's laid out. So anyway, the next item on our agenda under new business is the approval of our minutes from our meeting, May 23rd, 2023. I trust everyone's had a chance to look at those. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, I'd like to have a motion that we approve the minutes.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of our May 23rd meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the minutes are approved. The next item on our agenda is probably it's mostly the reason we are having this meeting. It's a discussion of our one-stop implementation plan. And for those who don't know, this is how every county establishes the days and the times and the places for citizens in the county and voters to come to a location and vote ahead of the actual election day, which is a great convenience for those who work and usually are tied up during regular working hours. The last Saturday, right before the election, the polls will be opened at 2 locations as well. The locations will be right here at the elections office, as well as Kill Devil Hills would still be the elections office. Am I correct on that?
That's part
We
of the,
haven't passed that yet.
that's part of the implementation
Yeah.
plan that the board has to adopt, is to determine what locations and
Right.
times those locations will be open.
Right. So that's the reason, that we're here. And you've been sent information, stats regarding the prior municipal election. I hope everybody had a chance to see that. It looks to me like there were a little over 21,000 eligible voters, of which 21% voted on the regular voting. And then there were 1,670 folks who I think voted on the absentee ballot. Is that correct? Did I read that correctly in
No.
your stats?
No.
3,490.
Is that what it was?
It was
3,400?
3,490 out of 16,637 in 2021 that actually voted,
Yeah,
total ballots cast. And the total ballots cast at the early voting sites was 1,060.
Okay. And the total percentage of our voters, of our eligible voters, was 21% or just under?
Was 20, yeah, almost
Yeah, 20.
21%,
Okay.
but that was out of 3,490.
Right. All right. As far as our locations, does anybody have anything that you want to discuss as far as the 2 locations? I mean, over the years, we've had those as our 2 locations for municipal voting. And for those who are watching who might be a little confused about this, Hatteras has no incorporated townships. The incorporated towns are north of Oregon Inlet. And so therefore the locations serve the voters in those areas. So traditionally, our 2 locations have been right here at the voting, at the elections office, and then over at Kill Devil Hills Town Hall. And most of you know that that's what we've done usually in our early voting, in our one-stop plan. Does anyone have anything that you'd want to ask or
Yes.
say about that, the locations?
I have a couple of questions for Jackie and Kelly. Can you remind me what the hours are that your office is open and that you have
Well,
to be open here?
It's not our hours, it's what the board adopts. So I asked the chairman to have this on the agenda today to so the board could have a discussion about.
Well, on
setting-
this thing that we have, though, it says that whenever you're open, if the one-stop location has to be open as well. That's why I'm asking.
8:30 to
8:30 to
5.
5. Okay.
And the reason that this is on the agenda, I want to give a little background on that.
Sure.
Is because we know that the composition of the board possibly could change. We don't know who's going to be appointed on the 27th of June. So I wanted to get this on for discussion because it will be due the first week in August. And then it gives the board time to discuss it, think about it, talk about it, and determine what hours you would like to have the one-stop sites open. If you want to adopt a plan today, that's fine, and it can be revisited prior to submission in August. But I just wanted
Particularly
to-
if there's a new board, if for some
Right,
reason,
that's,
yeah.
yeah, because,
Okay.
I mean, we're, right now, we have unknown. We don't know
Right.
what the composition is going to be. So that's why I put it out here so that you all could talk about it. And if you want to go ahead and set it, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's something we can
Yeah.
do, y'all. We can,
Yeah.
we can approve it however that we choose to approve it right now, knowing that if there's a change on our board, then we'll have to revisit that.
You don't have to
But-
revisit it, but it just would be ideal to bring
Of course.
everybody
Sure.
up to speed.
Yeah,
So
And,
what are,
and before the final submission is done, just to make sure everybody is in concurrence with
Yeah.
that.
now this is by state law, the way I understand it. For the one-stop implementation plan, we have to have a unanimous vote on whatever we have on the table. So that's another aspect to this.
what are the required dates?
The required dates are, it begins October the 19th and ends, the last day is November the 4th. And on that
That's
very,
that Saturday.
that very last day, November the 4th is on a Saturday, and it would end at 3:00 at all the sites that are
Yeah.
determined by the board.
According to this handy little printout, it has to be 8 to 3 on that Saturday.
Right.
Okay, but
The other hours could vary. You could, the Kill Devil Hills office hours does not have to be the same as the BOE office hours.
okay.
So you could, if you wanted to, you could make the Kill Devil Hills hours, which they have done in the past. You could do something other than 8 to 5 or 8:30 to 5, just,
Well, can we get from you again that breakdown by hour, when they came in? Last time we told how many hours, how many people could we meet each hour?
yeah, we could do that. Kelly and I kind of looked at that, and it was, remember we looked at that hourly thing? You have to,
Where, like, how many people?
how
were
many
voting?
voted every hour?
Because there were some times that were really dead, like some place, it was like 2 or 3 hours, and nobody
It
showed
seemed
up.
like the peaks were when we looked, somewhere in the, like, 10 o'clock
Early
hour.
morning, yeah.
Till about, so like there was really nothing before
10
9 or 9:30.
Yeah.
And then they trickle in, so 10 was from like 10 to 4. 10 to 4 was like where you're gonna get, everyone else was sort of a trickle, just maybe because, especially like super early, they weren't really coming in.
No, they were coming in all the early morning.
And then
That's right.
late, even in the afternoons, you might have a trickle, 1 or 2, but that concentration was kind of 10 to 4 from what we could see.
That's what I remember.
Well, I have a comment. This is going to be the first election that we have voter ID.
No, it's not the first one.
Well,
We've gone through voter ID
okay,
before.
but it's been a while.
It's been a while, and
2 years.
And so I'm thinking there may be some kinks.
there was no
that-
kinks last
okay.
time. We're not anticipating any
Well, we've
this
got a
time.
great staff for sure,
And-
but
Well, it doesn't even have to do with anything of any of that. The fact remains is the last time we had voter ID, Dare County was one of the counties that did not have issue with people not having them.
good.
So we're not anticipating that to be an issue this
Well,
time.
I'm
because
glad
most
to hear
people
that. Yeah,
Most people do have some form of photo ID, whether it be a driver's license or a NCDMV
ID card,
issued ID
yeah.
card.
but even so, I think it's going to take a little bit longer.
Mhm.
For the precinct officials to look at the card and look at the person and, there's a few more steps. So I would be probably in favor of making the hours for early voting more expansive rather than,
Well,
More-
we're talking 1,000 people over 2 weeks.
Right.
We're talking 1,000 people in 2 weeks at 2 locations. So let's say 500 people each location for 10 days. Let's see, we have a real big rush of 50 people a day, maybe. So where are you worrying about time? We have a
The munis usually tend to be a little
light.
light and
Mhm.
slower pace than a primary or a general. Because even the primaries are kind of light sometimes, but the munis are even lighter, very light.
Because
Yeah.
another one of our problems, we talked about, we want to see if we could, what we do with wages. Well, if we have a few less hours, we have a few more dollars that we could maybe get some people that we need in certain locations. So instead of being open from 8:30 to 5, 10 to 4 is more than enough for the staff to handle and more than enough for the people, because we're open 10 days, plus we're open on a Saturday. So, and you have mail-ins. Mail-ins were just as many as we have.
And the mail-ins for the municipals, very light. I looked and we only had 33 mail-out ballots in the last municipal.
Wow.
So they're not really that heavy.
You have convinced me.
Well, I'm not
Okay,
Well-
maybe we
saying-
don't need to have expansive hours.
Would,
Yeah.
would, operating the Kill Devil Hills site later into the evening hours, would that potentially better serve our voters?
No. After 4 o'clock, nobody comes out. You figure they're gonna come out for dinner or come to vote before dinner? They don't. We used to be open in certain places at 6 o'clock. 4 o'clock it stops.
Because even here in Manio,
Yep.
at 4 o'clock, after 4 o'clock, we had hours till 6, we had hours till 7, 7:30 during the larger elections. And after 4 o'clock, it's a steady decline. We're lucky to have one
Yeah.
person an hour, if that.
I was just thinking if we have
You know,
one
our-
site that's operating until 4 PM, if we had an overlap of hours, then people that for some reason couldn't get to the,
Well,
the
this
earlier
office,
voting site.
the Manio office would be open longer than that if the board chose to reduce the hours in Kill Devil Hills. The Manio office would still have a
Understood.
little
Yep.
bit longer.
Yep.
So they would have the option, they could come to Manio.
We did an awful lot of advertising in the past, both on paper, then we did a whole bunch of stuff on TV where we got those people from PR or wherever they're
The
from.
GovEd channel.
And we did all that kind of stuff. And you know what? We did not increase the total number that showed up. We increased our expenses and the people stopped coming at 4 o'clock. We did nothing, they stopped coming at 4 o'clock. So, we can be open 24 hours a day and spend a whole lot of money and get nothing done. 10 to 4 over there seems to work just to pick up everybody we need.
Is your recommendation 10 to 4
10 to
for
4
Kill
Monday
Devil
to,
Hills?
yeah, from Monday to Friday and 8 to 5 on Saturday.
Well,
8 to 3.
8
8
to 3 on that final Saturday.
Yeah, catch up Saturday.
Okay,
The final Saturday, 8 to 3.
I'd like to pause in this discussion just for a second and ask you all by consensus, are we all set with Kill Devil Hills and the elections office here as being our two sites?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
Is
think
everybody in agreement on that?
I
That
think so.
covers
We can do
North
that
and
by
the-
consensus to leave that as it is.
Yeah,
I
comes
don't-
the south, comes Nags Head and Manio, and Kill Devil Hill comes Kill Devil
Right.
Hill, Kitty Hawk, and
Okay,
Southern
so-
Shores and Duck. I mean, we have all 4 voters in Southern Shores.
Yeah.
Unless John's got to run again. And maybe we'll have 5 voters. Go ahead.
All right, so by consensus, the sites will
Well-
be what they've always been.
Well, we
Is
need to
that-
take a
is that-
vote on it, but,
Well, is that something we have to vote on, or we can
Yes.
vote on the whole thing?
well, let's vote on the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I thought we're going to.
Okay.
We,
All right,
we-
so-
I think we have a consensus, but when we get the hours, we need to make one whole
Okay, so
vote.
we can assume that everybody's in agreement on the site, so we don't have to dig into
What do
that.
you think?
Okay, now back to the
Why
discussion.
not? What do they think about? You have any
Yeah.
ideas?
I'm fine, we're fine with whatever the board tells us to do. We're good.
No.
Okay, so-
Yeah.
Well, you gotta think too, the towns, these municipals reimburse for this election. It doesn't necessarily go back to our budget, it goes to the general fund, but they pay for these elections. So the county would have to eat the bill for a site in Hatteras unnecessarily or somewhere else, because we can't ask them to pay for it because they don't have
Right.
a municipal to put an election on. So anything outside, we can't really ask the other towns. It would be asking them to pay for, we'd either have to split it up and ask the towns to, take a percentage of that cost for a third site unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Or the county would have to eat that. So financially, it's not a good idea, because you could set a site down in Hatteras or somewhere, I don't know, Stomach Point or Wanches or somewhere, but what would be the point? They probably wouldn't get any voters, but there would be an expense.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make sense.
That's moot. All
So
right, so
I'm
now
looking
back
at-
to the times.
Yeah, I'm looking at the calendar, and between October 19th and November 4th, which is the early voting period,
Yes.
if you don't count November 4th, which is the final Saturday, there are 2 other Saturdays. There's October 21st and October 28th. What are y'all's thoughts about longer hours on Saturday?
You want more Saturdays.
Well, we have to be open. Well, we don't have to be
You
open on
only have
Saturday,
to be
do we?
open, you're
That
only
final
required
Saturday.
by statute to be open that final Saturday,
Right.
November the 4th, from 8 to 3.
Okay.
And the other Saturdays,
I would like
we're-
to see
we're-
us open at least for a few hours.
We're beating this to death. We can do all we want. We can advertise, we can walk around with signs, we can knock on doors. They don't come.
Saturdays are very light.
They don't
I
come.
think we've got to remember, we're talking about a municipal election here. Now,
Exactly.
If we,
Yeah.
we're talking about midterms or a general, then the numbers might drive us to another decision in terms of accessibility. But I personally don't think that there's a need for us to open up more Saturdays for a municipal election.
And that's putting
You know,
that's
Looking
also-
at the numbers, looking at
That's
the
also
stats.
putting more work upon staff to work additional hours.
Yeah,
That we're already going to be putting in a lot of hours in preparation for the election.
Yeah.
Well, my concern is people who work. If you shorten the hours during the week, say to, 10 to 4, people might work during
You
those
still have
hours,
Manio
so-
until 5.
You still have many until 5, but what if they get off at 5? I mean,
What happens if?
they
you work-
would have that last
what happens-
Saturday to
What
vote.
happens if I
but-
work for Kitty Hawk Heights and I have a doctor's appointment on Tuesday at 10 o'clock? I go to my doctor's appointment Tuesday at 10 o'clock. I
Well,
can get off. If
I'm just
somebody says,
expressing
"I would
my
like- I
concern."
would like to vote, most people are gonna say, okay, go ahead for an hour.
I'm just expressing my concern about people possibly not having an opportunity to get off from work during the week to vote. And I'm just throwing it out there. Do we need to provide for them on a Saturday at all?
That's what drove my question about overlapping hours. If we have one site, the Kill Devil Hill site, that is open beyond
Right.
our site here in Manio, that gives the voters an opportunity that works, say, 9 to 5, or, during the hours that the Manio site is open, that they have those couple of extra hours to get to the Kill Devil Hill site to cast a vote. So that was
Well,
my
I'm kinda with
thinking,
you.
and that addresses your
Well,
concern.
I'm kind of with you, but I'm hearing also that people don't vote
They
after
don't come
4.
after 4 o'clock. We have 4 or
So-
5 years
Well,
that I know of that they
then-
didn't come.
It's complicated.
It's very light on a Saturday.
And
But-
they were open till 7 o'clock at night. Nobody came after 4. We had people here till 7 o'clock at night. They never come after 4. So we're gonna do what? Continue overlapping and
Well,
have.
the difference being, if you're going to open, well, I guess you can open a Saturday and have it to a constrained number of hours.
We do. We
What
have
did
the
we do?
last Saturday.
What did we do 2 years ago? Did we have any Saturdays before other than the
No.
last Saturday?
It was 8 to 5.
8 to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, and the last Saturday was 8 to 3
Was that at both sites?
at both sites.
Mhm.
So where our office opens at 8:30, we opened up 30 minutes earlier.
Okay.
I don't know that we really had anything come in,
Nothing comes in before
Oh.
9 o'clock
Yeah.
usually, but
but we cut it off at 5 o'clock, and then we had that one Saturday that's, you're mandated to be open. So both sites were exactly the same.
See, we're back to the fact that we had a grand total of 1,000
Yeah.
people in early voting in 2 weeks' time.
Well,
10 days.
I'm certainly mindful of what you're saying. I wouldn't mind constraining the Kill Devil Hills site a little bit. Maybe on both ends. I mean, maybe 9 to 4 or 10 to 4.
Only because if we do that, we could end up, the few bucks we save, we might, as we discussed earlier, use
Yeah.
it to people. We could get some better, let's admit it, we constantly look for people and we need to pay them. It's a long day and it's a lot to get somebody to sit here all day long. So we should give them a few extra bucks. And this is one way we can possibly get the few extra bucks and not hurt the voters because we have, well, I've been here for, I don't know, 100 years or so, and along with the rest of them, and the records show that we never did anything. So it's just,
I have a suggestion.
why don't we kick it around next election, next meeting? Think about it.
What if we have the one stop here at the Board of Elections from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday? That's required, more or less.
No, it's not
Well,
required.
8 or 8:30? Do you want it when we open at 8:30, or did you want it 30 minutes early at 8 o'clock? Which
you
means
just
our-
did that to kind of try it last
I
time.
don't know why that, I'm not sure why that was.
We
that's
could, we
just
could do
what-
8:30 to 5, so maybe, this is just a thought, I'm just throwing it out there for discussion. So at the Board of Elections office, 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then on that final Saturday, 8 to 3. And then at the Kill Devil Hills, one stop, being mindful of what you're saying, 10 to 4, every day except that final Saturday, which has to be 8 to 3.
You see, we made that final Saturday 8 to 5.
You can't,
You
it's by
can't.
statute.
You can't.
It's gotta cut off
It has to
at
cut off at 3 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
The final
It's by
Saturday
statute.
by
Yeah.
statute
Would you like to make a
is
motion?
8 to 3.
Well, I'm throwing it out there for,
Yeah, that's.
Would you all like to see a motion on that?
I'd be prepared to vote if there is a motion.
Ken?
I'll play.
All right, motion.
Um,
Let's get it done.
I move that we establish 2 early voting sites for the 2023 municipal election in Dare County. One at the Board of Elections office and one at the Kill Devil Hills municipal offices. That they both be open Monday through Friday during the early voting period. That the one at the Board of Elections office be open 8:30 to 5 every day. And that the one in the Kill Devil Hills municipal site be open from 10 to 4 every day. And that on the final Saturday, which is November 4th, that they both be open from 8 to 3.
Is there a second?
I'll second
I'll
that.
say,
All right, it's been moved and seconded, what she said. 2 sites, Kill Devil Hills Town Hall, Board of Elections Office. Kill Devil Hills on Monday through Friday will be open from 10 to 4. The Board of Elections Office voting will be open from 8:30 to 5. And on Saturday, did you say 8:30? to
8.
3? 8
It's
to 3.
required to 8.
8 to
yeah.
3, which is by statute.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other discussion? All right, seeing that there's no other discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, so be it. Nice work.
So we have a plan.
So we have a plan.
Does
So I'll
that make you
prepare
happy?
that- I'll prepare that
Yeah.
and have the signature sheet for you to sign at the next meeting. And then it'll be
Okay.
all ready when it's time to submit.
Great.
is there anything else we need
And then
to
if
do
we
with that?
need to revisit it prior to with the new board, we can do that. If not, then we'll let it stand.
And we can watch the numbers on all this. I don't expect the stats to be the same every single year. You know, I think there's a lot of change in the county as always, you know, in terms of population and interest in voting these days. So we may see the numbers change a little bit, you know, and then we have the nature of the other elections that we are involved with. So we've got a lot of things that are movable. All right, the next item on our agenda is our director's report. Jackie, do you have anything on that?
Okay, so, again, as I stated last month, we're just been preparing for the candidate filing, which will begin on July the 7th at noon and end on July the 21st at noon. So we're just getting things ready for that. I provided you all with a copy of the budget that was approved by the Board of Commissioners for the 2024. That gave you a copy of that, so you have that. The photo ID, I gave you a copy of the photo ID information sheet that was provided by the state. That information has been added to our website, and our Public Relations Department is going to use that information and then incorporate some of that into their social media things so that the public is made aware of that. We have not received any further information on implementation of the issuance of the photo voter ID in our office yet. The state is still working on the software to that's compatible with our existing SEAMS program. So they're working on that to get that so we can use the machines that we had before. We do still have the equipment, but the software is not compatible with our SEAMS program. So they're working on writing a program so that that can be used. So I don't know when we'll have any information on that, possibly by July, sometime in July, I think is what they've told us. I sent notifications yesterday to the party chairs about the submission deadline for the precinct official appointments, which will be coming up in August. So they've been made aware of that they will have, they are required to submit names for the precinct appointments, the chief judges and assistants. So we look forward to getting a response on that from the two party chairs. Again, I sent you information yesterday that I received yesterday regarding the hotel block for the conference in August. Originally, they didn't have a second block of hotels at another hotel. So I guess they had an overwhelming response to people not being able to get rooms at the actual convention center. So they've got another block. So I sent you all that. If you are interested in doing the conference, I would suggest go ahead and book in your room. And then I can take care of the registration once we figure out what the composition of the board is, and you let me know whether or not you want to go to the conference. As I understand it, you are only required to do the conferences if you have an initial appointment. So if you've already been seated, you're not an initial appointment, you're not required to go to the conferences, but you can if you would like to. The last thing is we are starting to get ready to try to find a part-time support in the office. So we've got a couple of interviews set up for next week. So we hope to be able to get someone good out of that and be able to get them in and see how they work out and get their feet wet and training and overwhelm them with information. So
This is during the election period.
right, just during the election
Like you
period.
had Kelly before,
Excuse me?
like you did with Kelly before.
Yeah, similar, very similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanna
So
know what you're doing.
we've got two ladies that are scheduled to come in next week, and we're gonna I think we're gonna try to change up, and just instead of sitting down and talking to them, we're gonna kind of take them through and show them and give them an idea of what the job entails, rather than just sitting down with them and talking to them and finding out what their skills are and what their background is. We'll still do that, but we're gonna make it a little more comprehensive and give them a whole picture of the landscape so that they can see what it all involves. I don't know if that's going to help or hinder, but I think it's better to put it all out there like that than for them to come in thinking, oh, it's going to be a cakewalk, and it's really not.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a lot of work, so
It is.
we're going to do that. And that's all I have.
Is that part-time help in this budget?
That's a different line item.
It's part of the county.
It's part of the county's salary. It's not.
Not in here. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little different because the commissioners established that money for us in a separate line item. So,
The part-time help,
right.
because I noticed this, that they accepted They accepted what we turned in. There's no changes.
If you look at it, we did not get everything that we asked for. You need to look at it closely, compare it to the budget stuff that we had. They did not give us all the money
Oh, okay.
that we asked for our precinct officials. So we have to also be mindful when we're talking about workers and spending money for the salaries for those precinct officials. We got to stay within those constraints of that line item, because we did not get everything that we asked for.
Are either of you going to the conference in August? Both of you?
All right. Anybody have any other questions? Ken, you okay?
No.
Gentlemen, everybody good?
I have a question about the Dropbox.
The Dropbox?
Yeah, up front, do we have drop boxes
There's a
during
big
the?
drop box right out here
Right.
on the right side of the steps as the
Mhm.
entrance to the building. That's our elections drop box.
Mhm.
But it's only for election correspondence, voter registration forms, deceased voter notices, cancellations. It's not for absentee ballots. By law, absentee ballots may not be dropped in a drop box.
So when they start to go out, we seal it off.
Yeah, so
Okay,
when it
good.
comes time for the
Mhm.
absentee ballots, I go out there and block it.
Okay.
So you can't put anything in it at all.
Mhm.
So there's no mistake that someone puts one in there. So I go out and actually tape it up.
All right, does anybody have anything else? All right, I wanted to remind everyone, our next meeting is July 18th, which is the third Tuesday, as usual. Those are our regular meetings. Hope to see everyone here. And I want to thank you all for your good work and for coming in today.
And July 18th would be the day that the new board would take oaths as well.
Yeah,
I gotta wear clean socks. Okay.
all right, all right. Seeing that there's no other business, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Did we get